everyone. Today I want to demonstrate some strategies that I use to paint some faraway mountains or faraway hills when I'm doing a landscape painting. And I normally stand up to do this, but for the purposes of our video, I'm going to sit down today. I have my background painted with some sky that I covered the entire paper with. And I've gotten out all my supplies. I'm a righty, so I tend to put my materials on the right hand side to make it easier for me, but think about that. Where's the easiest place for you? I got my water, got my brushes, I even have a plastic knife, I have some paper towels, and I have my palette with some paints. So let's go. I'm gonna start today with some faraway mountains. And I do use tempera paint for this, and I'm adding some water to it. And I have a square brush that I'm kind of making sure it's nice and square. And I tend to get the paint off my palette by petting it a little bit, moving it to the center, making sure my brush is evenly coated. And this is really scary. I'm gonna paint right over top of my sky. Here we go. I'm gonna make the outline of jagged mountain far in the distance. And then once I have the outline, I tend to fill it in. But my trick is, because it's far away, I use some imagination colors like violets and blues, and I mix them in with white, because things that are far away usually appear a little lighter because you're looking through miles and miles and miles of dust and water molecules and sometimes even pollution to see these things, and it appears a little lighter, and that's called atmospheric perspective. So I'm painting my mountain with one layer, adding some purple in. And then one of the tricks that I like to do is I like to switch to give it that rocky, rough texture. And I'm going to switch materials, or I'm going to switch tools from my brush to a palette knife. And if you don't have a palette knife at home or in the studio, you can even just use a plastic knife. And I reuse these. I'm going to get some white paint on my plastic knife, and I'm going to scratch it right on top of my mountain that I painted, and I leave it kind of thick, and that'll give you the impression of snow or rocks. And if you scrape too much off, you just get a little bit more and put it back on. You can even paint on with some of your colors, like your purple, and that'll give you some rough texture. And that's one of the biggest things I do in my landscape painting. I'm constantly changing the textures. And speaking of textures, I have some really old stiff brushes. In fact, if you were in my art studio, you'd probably think, wow, she's given us pretty cruddy brushes today. But I'm going to use these to change up the texture of my faraway hills. I got my mountain painted, and now I'm going to do some faraway hills. But I'm not even using green. My palette has all sorts of colors on it, and I like to mix right on my canvas. You don't have to, but it might be a fun thing you want to try. So I'm going to get some yellow on my brush, I'm going to get some blue on my brush, and this time, instead of scraping the canvas or going horizontal back and forth, this time I'm going to hop with my brush. And again, I'm going right over top of the sky. Oh my gosh. Go back, get some more paint. It's okay if your colors are a little different. This time I'm even going to go right over top of my mountain. You don't want to leave any space between your layers. You want your layers to overlap, go right on top of one another. In fact, I go right off the edge of my painting, and I always bring my faraway hills down farther than I think they need to go. And I think I'm going to do my faraway hills all the way across my painting. Oh, this time I went up and down. If you are the kind of person who can't keep things straight and steady, you're going to love landscape painting. These are my faraway hills. Now, we just talked about atmospheric perspective, making things that are farther away appear lighter. So I'm just going to grab some white, and I'm going to jump right on top of my faraway hills to mix right on my canvas and make them appear lighter. You could also do that with other light colors like yellow. And it might mix a little bit more than you anticipate, so you can go back tomorrow when it's dry. You can add even more white. And remember, bring your hills down lower than you think they need to be. Look at that. I have no green on my palette, but yet I have all this beautiful greenery. that I've created just by mixing right on my artwork. Bring these hills down farther than you think they need to be. As Bob Ross would say, maybe there's some light mist down here, so we'll lighten that up. I'm going to stop there for today. Remember, when you wash your brushes, use 2 hands, lots of soap, and make sure you get all the paint out. Thanks for joining me today. Enjoy your painting.